What's up, family? This is the original Nagamayan, and I'm trying to talk about the planet Vulcan today. Of the 12 zodiac signs, 2 signs are sharing planetary rulers with another sign. That is Taurus, which is sharing Venus with Libra, and Virgo is sharing Mercury with Gemini. Virgos are very different from Geminis. I mean, there are some things in common. We are both mutable signs, and we both are quick-minded. But that anxious, nervous, talkative energy, according to one of the OGs of astrology, one of the godmothers of astrology, Linda Goodman, in her book Sun Signs, each planet should have its own planetary ruler, and it's basically just a waiting game right now. That we are waiting to discover the true planetary rulers of these 2 planets that have not yet found theirs. So for Taurus, it is believed that Apollo is its true planetary ruler. And for Virgo, it is believed that it's a planet called, get ready for it, Vulcan, which I love because, you know, I was into Star Trek. So I'm with it, with the name Vulcan and the whole, you know, vibe of it. So some people feel that this whole Vulcan thing is hogwash. The reason being is because no one has observed it yet with a telescope. So basically we have not yet found Vulcan. So let's weigh the pros and cons of Vulcan being the true planetary ruler. So first of all, it was not yet seen to the eye, which is like a big thing because, you know, in order to declare it for real, it has to be seen. Why is it taking so long to be seen is the issue here. Let's talk about first why it was hypothesized that there was an additional planet. So Verrier, who is the same astronomer who located Neptune, observed that Mercury, every time it reached a certain point in its orbit, that it would start to wobble very badly. This was a very noticeable incongruency in the way it orbited. So he knew from experience that with some of the other planets that were discovered a little bit later, that was the case. It was because there was a planet that was not yet seen that was pulling on it gravitationally. So this is why he strongly believed that. And he got a lot of support in his theory that there was a planet called Vulcan between Mercury and the Sun, because he had located Neptune. So everyone's ears were open to him. The closest thing that scientists were able to find that fits the criteria, I have to read the name of it, is exoplanet HD 26965b. It is supposedly the closest super Earth orbiting a sun-like star. So basically, it's not considered part of our solar system. It is an exoplanet, but they're saying that it's close enough to still create an effect on Mercury's orbit, on its gravitational pull. So temporarily, we have identified this planet, and scientists are reluctant to call it Vulcan because they still feel that there is a closer planet that fits the description a little bit better. But in the meantime, they are looking at this planet and still observing it and figuring out whether this was the culprit. What would the planet be like? Of course, the planet would be super, super hot because it's really close to the sun, right? However, what's interesting is that we found a little bit of water pockets. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's called pockets, but we saw some water molecules, I guess, on Venus, and scientists were shocked because they had always assumed that Venus was too fiery, too close to the sun to have water on it. So it's quite interesting. Sometimes we close ourselves off to things that actually are possible. This is why I'm saying, you know, let's not close our minds to the possibility of there being a planet called Vulcan. Some further support for the existence of Vulcan is the fact that, you know, a lot of the outer planets were just recently discovered, And, you know, recently in terms of, you know, human history, in the perspective, in the context of human history, we had to wait for our telescopes and our technology in general to become more sophisticated. Now, a lot of people are saying, yeah, but this planet is supposed to be between Mercury and the sun. So what's up? How come we can't find it? It's supposed to be actually closer to us. Well, it could be because the orbit is longer. It could be taking a longer orbit for some reason, or it could be one of the following theories. Okay, so let's get into some theories. These are theories that either negate or support the existence of Vulcan. Either way, they try to explain that wobbling that I talked about in the orbit of Mercury. First theory is that Jupiter is pulling Mercury, and that's what is causing the wobbling. Second theory is that the sun is pulling Mercury and thereby causing the wobbling. The third theory is a little bit horrific. So this guy Verrier thought that he saw it in the 1840s. Okay, so the third theory is that the sun pulled it, but also pulled it into the sun, thereby destroying the planet. So basically, after Verrier thought he saw it, that, you know, he really saw it, and then it was destroyed after, which is interesting. Fourth theory is that it is so far out that we're just simply waiting for it to come back to observe it, which is a pretty typical theory. You know, it's not an exciting theory, but this is what happened, right? This is what happened, like with Neptune and Uranus and some of the other planets. And the fifth theory, which is my favorite theory, of course, because it's the most fun theory, is that Vulcan exists in a different dimension. Okay, now before you dismiss that theory, you know, scientists, quantum physicists have accepted that there are other dimensions. They have purported that there are other dimensions, and what are in these dimensions? If matter exists in these other dimensions, then planets must exist in these other dimensions also. And knowing that the time and space, the fabric of the universe is never on top of each other perfectly. There are always these little errors, these places where they bleed into each other. It would really make sense that a planet that's in another dimension could have that effect on a gravitational pull. So that's the theory I'm going with. Now, some interesting arguments to hold on to hope for Vulcan is that in comparison, you know, as I said earlier, a lot of these planets took a while to be found, right? Another thing is that I find is so interesting. A lot of so Aquarians used to share a planetary ruler with Saturn. And this is before Uranus was discovered. Uranus being the planet of technology and like the future and space and all those things, like right down Aquarius's alley. Now, it was observed that Aquarians, before the discovery of their true planetary ruler, Uranus, used to actually carry with them the melancholy traits. You know, melancholy is in like sadness and restriction of Saturn, because it was believed that Saturn was their true planetary ruler, which it wasn't. So, you know, this gives further fuel to the idea, as Linda Goodman says, that each zodiac sign is supposed to have its own planetary ruler and not share it with anyone else, which would make a lot of sense because there's a lot of significance to the number 12. There are 12 zodiac signs, and therefore there should be 12 heavenly bodies that correspond to each one specifically. What's interesting about the whole Aquarius thing with thinking that it was ruled by the planet Saturn, and then all of a sudden, when we realized that the true planetary ruler was Uranus, it was observed that Aquarians began exhibiting more of the technology and the space interests and all these other things their personalities had changed. And this is what Linda Goodman says, is that we can expect Virgo's personalities to become, to have less of that mercurial nervous energy and be more seated in its power, more confident in its power. Because, you know, there are a lot of things about Virgo in archetype and in myth that tell you that Virgo is actually quite a powerful sign. It is the sign of, you know, immaculate conception. You know, conception is something that birthed the whole universe, that birthed Jesus, birthed the whole universe, birthed people, you know, birthed everything. And that's very powerful. It's quite powerful. Also, you know, I'm gonna do another video about the name, about the person who the planet Vulcan is named after, the god Vulcan, the Roman god of Vulcan, and just be sure to check out that video. But what I find is interesting about it is that it corresponds with the physics theory, or actually it's physics evidence, because it was confirmed recently. When I say recent, you know, last several years, maybe within the decade, that objects actually behave differently when they're being observed. Isn't that mind-boggling? They actually observed, I'm not sure if it was a bullet or something that moved differently when people were looking at it. So this means that if you think that you have one planetary ruler, like all of humankind thinks that Mercury is Virgo's planetary ruler and that Venus is Taurus's planetary ruler right now, that you know, that our sign is going to behave accordingly, right? Even if you don't know about astrology, even if you don't think about it, that you, because that's what's known. It is known, it is seen. And that once the true planetary ruler becomes visible, it's all about it being visible, right? It's all about it being observed by the human eye and being accepted. So it has to be observed and accepted for it to have effect. And I find that so interesting. So it is believed that once we can locate Vulcan, that then Virgo will have its true planetary ruler. And then the waiting game continues, because we still have to wait for the discovery of Apollo so that we can place that with Taurus. And then maybe, just maybe, it's coinciding with a certain collective human ascension. Maybe we are raising our vibration together and it's coinciding with the discoveries and the correct attribution of these planets to their signs, so that everyone can sit in their true energy. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Look out for my next video on the mythology of Vulcan.